Hey, it's Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday, January 17th. Feels like a Monday. I almost said Monday, but it is Tuesday due to the holiday yesterday. And I forgot to mention that last week, um, that Martin Luther King holiday always sneaks up on me because it's just after Christmas. It feels like we just came back from vacation and we get another 4 day week right out of the gate there. So apologize, but most of you probably figured out what was going on when you didn't see a chart lesson on on Monday rather. Uh, we don't do chart lessons on Fridays anyway. But let's take a look here. As you can see, we made a measured move up. We came really close to a measured move based on the size of the first leg. Actually, this one looks like it ought to be a little bit bigger here. So we didn't quite make the measured move on the leg, but if you look at the width of the range here, which we'd been in for quite a while, we pretty much made a perfect measured move to that. Actually went a little higher today before turning down and selling off. Um, we didn't make a new low, but I believe we did close low. Either we closed lower or, I mean, it's not by much. You can see it there, but I think we closed a little lower on this day. 4,050 and no, we didn't quite close on a new low there, but you can see that it looks like a reversal type bar, so we may turn back down here on this measured move. This looks like a topping type action. Doesn't mean we will, but that's what it looks like so far, and it does look like we're getting follow through selling. Of course, this is overnight, so a lot of times if you get a trend moving that's good enough in the overnight, it'll continue into the regular open. So we'll see what happens. We're getting into, I mean, we're not severely overbought here, but we're getting into overbought territory. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. Plus, we've made the measured move based on the size of this trading range here. You can see that that's that dash line. We did turn down kind of off that purple line multiple times there as well. So, excuse me. So maybe we're topping out and going to turn down. We could just continue to kind of work sideways in this little congestion here. So this is the daily chart, so it's a little bigger time frame. So congestion here might take more. I'm trying to think of the words. I'm trying to think. It wouldn't be quickly like over a few minutes on a intraday 2,000 tick chart or whatever. So it takes longer to play out. So sometimes you need a little more price action to read the daily chart than you might the 2,000 tick chart. So, but anyway, there's a look at it. There's a look at the day. It looks like a reversal type day. Let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart. We'll take a look at it. Kind of mirrors what you see here, except that we had the early rally and then we kind of sold off and went into a trading range. So we'll flip over there and look at that and go through the trades. Okay, here's a look at it. Early on, I was looking at this upward trend, and I didn't really have this range on here. There was a possibility that it could turn into a range day, but we moved pretty far outside of that here, and then we were working sideways kind of in this small range. So I really thought that we would probably try to at least make a measured move if we were in a range, or the trend would continue higher and we'd just stay in this trend. So I didn't put this on here this morning. Let's just move this off temporarily, and I'll show you kind of how I saw it. It was looking pretty much like this, I think, when I posted the chart today. And even though you can see some sideways stuff, this clearly is an uptrend. I believe what we had was an overshoot up here. I originally had this up here just in case we went higher, and it still fits there. But if you drop it down to here, it fits much better along that midline. Plus, it gives you an overshoot, which could lead immediately to a reversal, which is what we had without a retest of the high. So I believe this was to be the original channel here, the way I have it now. And somebody else actually sent me an email and said that I'm trying to remember how he worded it, that he didn't. That his theory was that people don't see this as a valid trend line because it kind of looks like a range. I agree with his thinking that this could turn into a range day, but it's still, I mean, this trend, this channel is obviously valid because it's playing off the lines perfectly, except for this overshoot up here, which might confuse people with less uh, experience. And I wasn't sure 100% myself. I really thought it might be like that, and it could have been. But in the end, and this is not critical that you get this perfect. I mean, if you were close here, if you had it like me or pretty close, you're good. So I think this was the channel, and I think we had an overshoot, and then we reversed, and we went back into this original. I mean, this range wasn't clear because there's no clear resistance here. I mean, usually it's the overnight highs or lows, and we had some clear resist or support down here, but you can see the resistance was at different levels. We're still making, every time we come up here, we make a higher high. So to me, that's leading towards a trend, which it did end up trending higher. But this trend ended pretty quickly, and we had this huge sell-off, and we went right back into what looked similar to the range before, and we actually kind of formed a little bit of, still the resistance is not as clear. Even the support here, it's a little clearer, but I mean, these are hard ranges to trade. I'll be honest with you. Didn't mean to do that, but let's put this back like I had it a minute ago. I think we were playing it pretty much like so. We pulled this down here like so, where you get the most touches, which actually that's the close from the previous day, this dashed line here. So, and a lot of times that will act as an important support and resistance area. And so there it is. I think we had the trend up, and we came back down, and we just got back in this range. And if you played it up here, I think that's the way I had it a minute ago. I think we get more touches up here. I think that fits a little better across there. I think that brings your midline pretty close. As you can see, we didn't get a measured move here, and that's what another thing. Once we went this far, you would think we'd probably make that measured move. But the problem is there's some real serious resistance here at 40.35. And prices just couldn't get through it, and then suddenly, boom, the bottom falls out of it. But anyway, you see it there. That's how I see it. I believe we had a trend up early with the sell-off that went back into the range from that we kind of had earlier. So let's zoom in here. We'll go through the trades. I did mark off about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You can see this was manufacturing index, the Empire State. It didn't really have, I don't think there was any effect at all really from it. But lately you can't ignore these. So I would be flat by 7:15. And then it was pretty obvious it wouldn't change anything. You could jump right back in this one after about 15 minutes. So usually I'd say wait 30 minutes, but you can clearly see there was no true effect there. I mean, it doesn't look any different than what we were seeing already. So I think you were safe to trade that pretty quickly. But the first trade I saw was right, 7 o'clock came during this move down, and you can kind of see we bounced right here off of this trend line coming up through here. There's also, you could call that a triple test. I like that just because it's a triple test, decent signal bar, little ways away from the EMA. You at least got plenty of room back there, and it could go much higher, which it does. And then it comes back, you get a second entry here, but there's a trend coming down here, and you get a little close outside here, move to a new low, and then it reverses. I would not trade this on the engulfing bar. I'd wait till this closes, and if it breaks above that high, this definitely qualifies. If it breaks above that high, go with it. And again, it's right off that trend line, so all the more reason to go with it. Of course, you get a break here to new high. You can't enter in this stuff. This one's real tempting, but that's really congested. You can see we're finding support off of that close from Friday. Or I guess that would be the partial day Monday. So be real careful with that. And then you get a second entry short here. Notice the new low, first entry, and then it goes higher. When it breaks below there, second entry. There's a little bit of support across there, but at this point, this is looking kind of range-like. We couldn't get back up to the upper sides of this trend channel at that point, and now we're back below the EMA. So we're probably at least going to make a new low on this channel working down. So just make sure you give yourself a little room there for that. And I marked it green because it's not ideal, because there's not a lot of room there. I mean, if you just measure the exact number of ticks, you can see there's only a point there. So, and that does look a little congested. So that's the worry, but it definitely looks like we're going lower there. And you would expect prices to try to make a new low there as well. So maybe you take that trade. I marked it green. But you can see we do move on down, make a couple of legs, and we bounce right off that key entry point again. No setup here. Wait and see if you get a reversal or something, and really you get this higher or low. You make a leg up, you pull back to the EMA, which you would expect that, test it before you go higher. But I don't like that entry. That's just it's too congested. It's really a first entry back here, so this is not even an entry here. This is just a continuation. So and you couldn't enter off this bar. So there's no entry there, and then you're just kind of chopping along again sideways before you break up here and turn down. This is really tempting as well, but you could get another leg up, and this trend is still in play, so I'd wait on something better than that. We do come down here and get a triple test, but again, you got to worry about this resistance right here. So that's a little concerning. Again, it looks like a triple test. Maybe that's another one you mark green. If there was a little more room to the EMA, maybe you take that one just on a little bounce. But I was a little leery of that one. There's a higher low here, but you sure can't take that one right back into all that resistance across there. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter. It takes off, but you can't take that trade. But again, if you're patient just a few minutes, it pulls back here and gives you a failure. Again, this is a more advanced trade, so this wouldn't be for everybody. But those of you that are skilled enough, look how we pushed through that EMA. We pulled back and tested it. I'm sorry, not the EMA, the midline of the channel. And that's anytime you push through a major support and resistance like a trend line, a midline, an EMA, important support and resistance like this, it usually will come back and test it from the other side before going on. And that's what happens. We pull back, we test it here, and you get a failure here, and that's a failed second entry short if it breaks above there. You may not could get in that trade because it just takes off right there. They had them trapped right there. And it looked like there were people down here waiting to buy it, and they just off it went. And again, I think we get an overshoot here early on. I wasn't sure about that, but I think we do. I don't see anything after getting that, after at least hitting the upper trend line, even if it wasn't an overshoot. I just don't think you can enter any of this right here. You do get a triple test here, but that looks congested. We're below the EMA. Maybe when it pushes back and comes back and gives you a higher low right there, I think you could safely trade this one just to try to get a scalp up to here. And that's exactly where you find resistance. And then you get this triple test here. But again, that's congested. It's right at the midline. We're still in an uptrend. The EMA is still pointing up here. I think it's a little too early to go short. Same thing here. You can't go short into that support. And it's a shame because that's a really nice move down. But unless you were wanting to be a little bit aggressive here, I don't see any way to catch this. And I wouldn't take that trade right there. I just think it's too, I mean, I looked at it. It was very tempting. But I've seen those fail a lot of times. You got the EMA, you got the midline, you got congestion. I mean, I'm really surprised this didn't come back and at least test this breakout here. It tried to, but it couldn't get through the midline. It just was done by that time, and off it goes. No reversal pattern or anything. You might say, hey, that looks like a reversal. It really doesn't, because that doesn't look like a leg. That's just sideways, so that looks like one leg down. And even if it did look like a reversal, you really can't go short right into that support. So, and off it goes. And so there's just no way to catch that one. There is a second entry right here, but that bar doesn't qualify. But a few minutes later, you get a true second entry with this big bar. It breaks higher and turns down. maybe you trade that engulfing bar. I'd probably wait, and if you wait, you can't go short right here because you got too much support right there. But in a few minutes, it breaks lower, comes back, and you get a lower high right here, and I like that trade. And off it goes, and that turns out to be a pretty good trade. And then you come down here and you just start working sideways, a little failed break lower, no setup to go long there. Until finally you get a little triple test here, and it's the first close outside this green channel, so you'll probably push to a new high, which you do, so you got more than enough room on that one. You might even get a slight runner on that one. And then where does it find resistance? At the close from noon Monday, and then down it goes. Of course, you get a little close outside here, move to a new low, and then it's going the other way. That close is real. I mean, that's not a really convincing close, so you really don't want to be buying this second entry right here. You could, but I wouldn't buy it. And notice we just kind of start chopping sideways. And we do get a close outside and move to a new high. We don't quite make the new high here again, but you do get a triple test and a really bearish bar, and we just been going from high to low to high to low. So there's a good chance we're coming back to here at a minimum. And so maybe you take that trade. I marked it green, but maybe you take that trade. I don't like going long there because that bar really has some stem. It closes below the midline. It almost closes below the EMA. Again, if you have enough room there, maybe you risk it. But I'd probably wait on see if it tests it again. It does actually give you a little trap there, but by that time that really looks congested. It's right in the middle. That you just have to be careful with that one. The problem with this one is I wouldn't trade the engulfing bar, but now you don't have enough room here. Here you probably have enough room. And you just do have enough room. So with that amount of stem, closing below all that, I really don't like it. I mean, you might argue for it to be green based on the fact that there's enough room there, but it's just enough room, and you're really pressing your luck. It runs up here, it finds resistance here, it tests it actually 3 times. But this one didn't quite get back up. Maybe my line's just not there. Maybe it did quite get back up. But we're still making higher highs and higher lows. But when we tried this time and broke higher and failed and came back down, if it breaks below that, there's plenty of room back to that EMA, and we may turn and go to the other side of the range again. So I like that one. I'm not as crazy about this one. And you can see if you took it, you got stopped out. I mean, it's just one of those deals where it is a lower high. It's not a second entry because your count starts here. So it's a first entry, second entry, third entry. And you could argue it's a triple test, but if you did, you got stopped out on it. But when it makes this trap here, I like it this time. So that's all they did. They stopped out all the people that tried to get in early right there. And it creates a long trap. And so when it breaks lower there, look at it go. It took it a second. But once they pushed it, once people realized it wasn't going higher, boom, off it goes. All these longs had to exit, and a lot of new shorts will come in as well. And we just go right back into you can't trade this. Just don't even try to trade this. It's unfortunate. You get a nice move here. And then you kind of see the same thing again, another little triple test. So it didn't work this time. I'd be afraid of it. This one even looks more congested. And there's a good chance we haven't made a new high on this one. Here we at least did make we actually made a new high here by 1 tick, or actually right here, this whole thing is a new high. Here we don't have any new high yet, and then we're going lower. So, and then I like this one just because, actually I marked the wrong one. That should be right here. No, I call this just one leg down, first entry, second leg down, second entry, and it failed. And you could even trade that one as a lower high. So you could trade either both of those or either one of them. And that took us into 230. So, but anyway, that's kind of how I saw it. Not much happening today. It looked like this thing was just going to keep pushing higher. And then it looked like we might totally reverse and sell off. And next thing you know, we're just chopping around. And again, when you don't get a real clear resistance area or a real clear support area, really the only thing you can do is try to trade these ranges. I'm sorry, try to trade these short-term micro trends. And so that's really all you can do with it, because it's not consistent enough at the highs. It's not consistent. Now, if it turns every time down off this line and turns up every time off this line, and you get good signal bars and triple test and double test, and I mean, it's like a gimme then. But this makes it much harder because you don't have that consistent. You don't know where it's going to turn up here. It's turning at look how it turns at different places every time. And same thing down here, it turns at a little different place every time. It just makes it much harder. So those are hard ranges, and really the only way you can trade this is just find these little micro trend channels and trade them. And if you don't get a sure thing, probably just skip it, because you can easily get whipsawed in this. And in fact, I mean, this is one of the reasons I like to be done by lunchtime, because if you're done by lunchtime, you got a good trend up, a good trend down, and you don't get stuck in all this stuff. This kind of price action tends to happen more in the afternoon. That's not to say that you won't get great trends in the afternoon, but this is more what the norm. This is more what you see, this type of price action in the afternoon. The harder the price action just doesn't seem to be as structured and easily followable as it is in the morning to me. And I've said that many times on here, but I've always paraphrased that with, I have nothing to prove that with other than my experience. Just a gut feel that I have from experience over years of trading this thing. I like to trade the mornings. They're generally easier. There's generally easier, better setups. But I do see some days where the afternoon is just the opposite, 10 times easier to trade than the morning was. But that's a rare, less common occurrence in my opinion. So, but it happens. So just be aware of it. Nothing's written in stone when you're trading, and that's the main rule to remember. Anything can and might happen. So we're 20-something minutes here. I'm going to wrap this one up. I hope you enjoyed the extended weekend. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.